Okay. Yashalala. Shalom. Welcome to another episode of
It's About Time.
I said welcome to another episode of
It's About Time.
Can y'all say it a little faster? Welcome to another episode of
It's About Time.
All right, so this is It's About Time, where it's all about time, and all we talk about is time. Now, we left off last week. We were talking about we talked about the calendar. All right, we had the nice little chart up. It might not be that pretty this week, but it's a lot of information that we're trying to share. I want to read something from you. First of all, I want to remind everybody that we are this is now the second day of the week. Okay. We're in the second day of the week. All right. The 29th day of the 12th month. All right. And we have 2 more days until we get into a new month. We have 2 more days until we get into a new month. And we have 32 more days until we get into the new year. So in 32 more days, we'll be in the new year. So happy new year in advance to everybody. That's when we go into Genesis, when you go into the book of Exodus, chapter 12 and 13, it talks about the month that we came out for Passover will be the beginning of the year to you. And a lot of these topics, we're going to just hit on real briefly. We don't get into a whole bunch of long, specifics, because time is one continuous stream and it's all related. It all works out together. As you see, look at the word for time itself. All right, you have the circle, then you have a mark, something that's constantly moving, but inside this movement, there's a mark. All right, there's an attention and a focus. All right, that's the thawah, which means mark, and then you have the circle, which is the iyan or ayan in the Hebrew, which means your eye. So your eye is watching the marks. All right, your eye is noticing the marks. All right, so now remember, so the next so-called new moon is going to be so-called March 3rd, and after that, so-called March 5th. And after that, the new year is going to be so-called April 4th, so-called April 4th. Passover, the first day of Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, is going to be April 18th. And then the last day of Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, begins on April 24th. Okay, April 24th. All right, so let's go through the with the shaloms real quick. Okay, so we say shalom to Eliyahu Shua. All right, shalom, shalom. Prince Israel, shalom. Mark, how's it going with you? Haram. Do y'all have sound? Is my you can't hear? You know what? I think I have to shut off this right here. Have to disconnect from the conference line, and then let the call have to let the call keep going. So let me go ahead and I'm going to stop this meeting. All right. So now, everybody, can you hear me now? Is the sound okay now? Can you hear me now? Is the sound okay now? All right. Is the sound okay now? Somebody tell me if they can hear it on the sound now. All right. Is the sound okay now? Can somebody tell me? Is the sound okay right now? Is the sound okay now? Okay, sound is good now. So what I want to do, I want to start off, we're talking about time. And what I want to do is I want to read something from Josephus. As you know, Josephus was from the tribe of Levi. All right, so Josephus will be regarded as a La'ah. Josephus will be regarded as a so-called Haitian if he were alive today. All right, so he wrote some interesting things, pertaining to time, pertaining to the holidays and things of that nature. So what I want to do, and he was a first century witness, to a lot. Now, he's not the Most High, and he's not like a holy prophet or nothing, but he was a first century witness that wrote with his contemporaries after he was caught by the Romans and he was forced to surrender. He didn't commit suicide. They took him, and he basically got adopted by Vespasian, who was the evil, bad, white Roman, Edomite child of Esau, emperor of Rome. All right, Vespasian. And his son, Titus, was the one that actually conquered and surrounded Jerusalem. So what I'm going to do, I want to read from the Antiquities, all right, Antiquities of the Jews by Josephus. And we're going to go into book number 3, okay? Book number 3 right here. Book number 3. We're going to go to chapter 10, all right? Chapter 10. And then we're going to go into section 5 of chapter 10, which is going to be paragraph number 248 in the overall arrangement of book 3. So each book is arranged into I'm sorry, not even the overall arrangement into let's see, book 3. Okay. Yeah, in book 3, the books are arranged into paragraphs also. So we're in book 3, paragraph 248. Now it reads, in the month of Xanthicus, okay, which is, now I'm gonna write it up for you so you know what it's talking about. All right. Here is the name, all right? Xanthicus. That's a coincidence, ain't it? All right. Xanthicus. Okay, so he says, in the month Xanthicus, which is called by us, meaning us Hebrews, which is called by us Nisan. Okay, so he says Xanthicus and Nisan are the same months, and we know that Xanthicus and Nisan are also known as Abib, and we'll break down, the Abib, in a minute, so we can understand what exactly Abib is. Excuse me, my camera crew is off for the day, so I have to make some adjustments myself. Okay. So we gave the camera crew's been working so diligently and so hard that we gave them basically gave them the day off. Okay, so now that's a little better. All right, so now what we have is it says in the month Xanthicus, which is called Nisan or Nisan, and the beginning of our year. So I'm gonna stop right there, which is called Nisan. Now I'm gonna stop right there, and then I'm gonna go into the book of Exodus. Ariashan, vete, llama el número otra vez también. Llama el número otra vez. ¿Recuerdas el código? Ok, como 61 o 62. 29. Okay. So it says in Exodus chapter 12, verse 1, and Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aharon in the land of Matazadium, Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Now, first month of the year to you is what it says. And we're looking at the English. So then he says, this month shall be the beginning of months, which is talking about the month of the Exodus 12. And you know that Exodus 12 is talking about the Pesach, when we came out of Egypt. Okay? Now, when you go into chapter 13 and you read verse 4, dígalo que se baje el volumen. Diga que se baje el volumen. And it says, this day came ye out in the month of Abib. All right. So it says we came out in the month of Abib. All right. So the month of Abib, which is here called Nisan and Josephus. All right. And then he calls it what? He calls it Xanthicus, what the Romans were calling it. So now let's go into, and I like to, when we're talking about time, it's very important to see the pictures, because you know about time through pictures. Sun is going down. Oh, it's about to be the end of the day. Time to relax and chill out. Going to the crib and get ready to eat dinner, go to bed or whatever. Sun is coming up. Oh, time to get out of bed, get the day started, whatever. All right. So he says that Abib is the beginning of the year. This is Yahweh talking now. Yahweh says Abib. So as we did last week, we're gonna review real quick. All right. We're gonna come back to the time. Okay. So just like we did last week, let's erase this. All right, let's erase this. And let's go back into actually dealing with this word here, Abib, which is a biblical word. Now, the first letter is right here, okay, which is Abba, or which is Alap, which means ox, or strength or power. Okay, so we're right over here, ox. Power. All right, and there's also an animal. So the next letter is going to be Bayak, which represents what? Represents house. Okay, the third letter is a Yad, which is a Y, which represents a hand, and also represents power also. But this power is directed power, like it's like, I think we probably need it in here, right? It's like to a direct. All right. Come. Like it's pero póngalo con el cable para cargar en el computador también. Abiab. Ba. Again, it's just a repetition. Okay, house. All right, so a house. So what does this word mean? This means you take your ox, and when you're dealing with the ox, you take the ox from the house. And when you take it from the house, you use your hand and your power to direct the ox so that you can build your house with what? With crops. Build your house with grain. Build your house by the power of the ox, right? You got crops, you got grains, different things of that nature. So that's when we go into Abiyab. That's what the word means. So when do you start to do all of this, man? When do you take the ox from his house? When do you, as the father, start to come from your house and start to put your hand? It's winter time right now in several places. Even down here in Mexico, man, it's raining. It's raining right now. All right, it's raining. If you up in Seattle, Washington right now, we were on the phone with some brothers earlier. It's raining up there. So with that rain, you kind of in the house. So now, as we start to get into a bib, what's gonna happen? Ponga la silla de nuestro cuarto. So they have to get the other stool from there. So when the rain stops, now it's time to what? Get out there with that ox. All right, take him from his house. All right, and then when you take him from his house, you put your hand to the plow. You put your hand to the field. You put your hand to start to plant seeds. All right, you start to plant seeds again, and as you start to plant seeds again, once you finish all your work is done, you get back in the house. So that's the planting, and this is all done in the season that's called spring, but in the Bible it's called hot. All right, it's called hot in the Bible. All right, the Bible basically calls it the Bible basically calls it the hot season. All right, pongo una caja abajo de allá y puedo poner todo sobre la caja. En la caja ahí, allá. So now what we can do is what we can do is make sure that we understand that when we see certain words, those words are telling us a story. And sometimes we understand the story, sometimes we don't. So this is basically saying when it starts to get warm outside again, and you can start to bring your animals from the ox, and you put your hand to the animals as you come from your house, and you direct the animals. All right. And then when you direct the animals, you direct them to put more power, more grain, more nourishment, more food into your house. And then this goes over and over again. All right. So that's what the word abib means. All right. So we want to break that down from the Bible, and we want to show it, from what Josephus says. All right. So now going back to Josephus, then he says, in the month of Xanthicus, which is by us called Nisan or Abib, and is the beginning of our year, as we read in Exodus chapter 12, that the beginning of our year is the month that we came up out of captivity, and that's the month that we took the lamb, all right, which is the month of Passover, which is the first month, all right. Then he says, on the 14th day of the lunar month when the sun is in Aries. So what he's telling us is this. We're going to break this down now for the time because we have Passover coming up, so it's the perfect time to use Passover. Now, I hope you got all these down. So let me erase the board now. All right. Now we're going to talk about what does he mean when he says the sun. All right. He says the sun is in Aries. That's the symbol for the sun. That's the symbol for Aries. Okay. So what does he mean when he says the sun is in Aries? Now remember, he said on the He said on the 14th day, which is the Yad and the Dalah. That's 14. He write that in Hebrew, which also says what? It says hand in the Hebrew. See, the Hebrew tells us all kinds of secrets when we write it. All right. So what did the Most High say? He said on the 14th day is when you have to slay the lamb between the evenings. So what do we have here? What do we have here? This is what they call Aries. Okay. What does Aries mean? Aries is a Latin word, all right, that goes into, it means sheep. Very simple. Has nothing to do with a horoscope or what month you were born in or the house of the sun. It's a group of stars that we see in first book of the scriptures, Genesis, Bereshit bara Asher, and in chapter 14, it talks about these constellations that are the framework for time. So now when Josephus says when the sun is in Aries, see the Most High, this right here is called what you would call a sign, which is the second word, which is the word we have right here, which is a mark. When you're dealing with time, this second word right here means a mark. Okay? And the first word, letter right there, means eye. So your eye marks. So a mark that your eye sees. This is Ayan or Iyan, and this is Tawa, which means a mark. All right. Now, when we go into donde yo puse el libro que Shakara me trajo, no? Shakara, dame el libro grande así, moreno así. She bought me the Siddur. I need the Kumash, right? So what we want to do is I want to show you this word means mark. So I want to show you this word, and I know it's kind of a review for those of you that's kind of been following us, but we want to go into the script. We want to go into the Kumash, which is the Hebrew rendering of the first 5 books of the Bible. Remember, Kumash, Kawamash means 5. First 5 books of the Bible. So we're going to Bereshit or Asher chapter 1, and we'll go into verse 14. And we went into this a little bit last week. So if you listening and you seeing, it's time. So sometimes it's going to be repetition just to rebuild that foundation again. All right. So now when you go into verse 14, it says, in Alahayim, I said, now if you look at that 14, you see I'm not BSing you. You see that they have it written in the Hebrew. Okay, you see that right there. They have it written as a right there. They have it written as a Yad and a Dalah. Okay, so that's verse 14 of Bereshit, talking about day 14. All right, which means hand in Hebrew, which is the day that you take that sheep and you put your hand to its throat and you kill it, and then you offer it up to the Most High in Jerusalem at the temple for the service conducted by the Levites. All right. So it says, and Elohim said, let there be luminaries or lights, all right, in the firmament, all right, of the heavens to separate between the day and between the night. They shall serve as signs, festivals or seasons, all right, days and years, okay? So it says, Af, Wa, la mawaidyam wa la yamyam wa shanyam. So it says athak. Okay, athak for the word signs. That's the word for signs, athak. All right, so the athak is a powerful sign. And the first letter is an ox, which is the animal, okay, which is a sacrificial animal. And the first sign is called the Aries, all right, which is the sheep, which is also a sacrificial animal. So that's what we want to bring that out. So now when Josephus says, when the sun is in Aries on the 14th day, all right, so let's break that down. Now, remember, the Most High, when you read the scripture, we see about let these things be for signs and seasons and for days and years. Now, the seasons, remember, the season says this. It says wa la mawaidyam. All right, wa la mawaidyam. All right, I believe that's how we have it written. Yeah, wa la mawaidyam. Now, mawaidyam means season, okay, and also means feast. All right. That's why when we go into the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, when it talks about the feast, it has this word. Okay. It says mawa'idya, the feast. All right. Or you'll see it in modern Hebrew written with Latin letters as Moedim. Just do a search on Google, Moedim, and it's a word, denoting the feast or the high holy days or the feast days on the Israelite, Jewish, Hebrew, whatever calendar system, right? So those are our days that the Most High gave to us. All right. So what was the point we were making? The point we were making was that this word mawaidyam, it says for signs and for seasons, and that signs is athak. So now this brings us to an understanding that when we look in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, and it talks about the signs, all right, and it talks about these holy days, Josephus makes an immediate reference where he brings both of these words together. Now remember, this is the first century trained, bona fide patriot of the Levitical order of priests of the nation of Israel that put his life on the line fighting against the Romans. Surely not a man that would be trying to, perpetrate a fraud against his compatriots while in exile, living outside of and kicked out of the land of Jerusalem. This was a bona fide patriot. He put his life on the line. He was the leader of a regiment from the Galilee area. And he wrote in his writings that Yahushua was the Messiah. All right. That's what he wrote. He said Yahushua indeed was the Messiah. He said, if it indeed be lawful to call him a man, because he said he was so much greater than a regular man. So Josephus immediately put these two words together. He says that we keep the festival, he said, on the 14th day of Passover. Listen to what he said. He says, the beginning of our year. Actually, when we see the word year right there, he says this is the beginning of our year. So when we go into Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, that's the last part of the four things that the lights in the heaven, the first set of lights, the circle of stars, not the second set, which is the sun, the other stars, and the moon. The first set said for signs, seasons, days, which is Yamayim, days, and then he says years, which is Shan or Shana Yum. Remember the word for two is Shana. So the word year it means two. So it's a constant recycling. Because the word Shana, and I'm going to break down why it tells you Shana. The 2 is based on what? The 2 is based on the fact that the moon has made a circuit with the sun in each constellation twice. And then it starts back at the first constellation, which Josephus says is Aries, which is the month of Nisan, which is the month of Abib. All right. So now we see that he says what? He says that let them be for signs. All right. So this right here is signs, and this one is seasons. Sign and season, and this one is days, and this one is years. So what Josephus is saying is that this fixed group of constellations in the stars are what we use to determine the new year. Not just the sun, not just the moon, not just any group of stars, but the circle of stars that we read about in the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 13, verses 1 and 2, when he talks about the circle of stars. So, signs, seasons, days, and years. Atat wa la mawa'ayam yamayam wa shanayam. Shanayam, which is the years, which means 2, because it's circling around the constellations twice. You see, when we look at the sun doesn't go through all the constellations twice. It goes once. So it's not based on the sun, because this word means 2. Now the moon starts in the first constellation, then it goes through all 12, then it goes to the first constellation, and then it goes into the second constellation. So it's at the second constellation. All right, let me illustrate it for you. So the sun and the moon are right here. Okay, here's the sun and here's the moon. All right, let's do a little circle. Here's the sun, here's the moon. So what happens is the moon keeps moving faster and the sun moves away. Now the moon keeps going around and around and around and around, and then bam, it passes in front of that constellation again. Goes through that constellation, and then bam, it links up with the sun for another cycle of the new moon. So it keeps doing that. So it goes around this constellation. It starts in this constellation once, then it passes through it again twice. Now the sun, on the other hand, it doesn't go through all the constellations twice in a year. So the word year within itself tells us that there's an action that's associated with duality. 2. It goes through twice. So what is that duality? Let's explain the duality now. All right. So we have 2 main cycles of 2, which the first cycle of 2 is the centers of gravity, centers of mass of the sun and moon, they link up. And that's what gives us the inferior conjunction. Inferior meaning that it's closest in regards to the sun. Inferior meaning that it's close to the sun. Okay, close to the sun. And then conjunction meaning that it's lined up together in front of the sun. All right. So now that's what we have. So that's the first symbol of 2. These 2 link up together and become like one line of sight. That's the first one. Now within this itself, all right, within this itself, you also have what? I'm gonna move to this side, okay? You also have within that, you also have these constellations. Let's do the constellations from all right, constellation. All right, now let's call this constellation the ram, or better yet, how about this? Why don't we address the species of the ram? Let's call this constellation the sheep. Now, what's the very next constellation after the sheep? You guessed it. It's the ox. which some people call a Taurus, which some people call a Taurus. So it's the ox. Okay. Now the ox doesn't begin the year, which is this is the ox backwards, which is Aitha or Aitha. This is the word ox. All right. So it's two different words written in English and Hebrew, but using the same characters that look the same. All right. This doesn't say ta'ai. This says ox. Let me go like this. This says ox. Okay. So that word there says ox. And that's the second constellation. So what happens? Now remember, we had the sun and the moon line up in the sheep. And Josephus said that this is when we begin the new year. So what happens? The sun keeps moving slowly. All right. And then the moon is moving through all of the other 11 constellations. And then what happens? Bam. The sun goes into the moon goes into the first constellation again. And then it enters into the next constellations where the sun has moved to. So the moon is making her circuit around again. And that's when we line up again. So that's two sets of twos. You follow me? Look up the word Shana. If you look up the word year in Hebrew, all right? If you have a modern Hebrew dictionary, if you have a Strong's dictionary, all right? I don't have a Hebrew chart up, but in the Strong's dictionary, let's take these words off real quick. This is what you need to use your Strong's for. Don't just use your Strong's to look up a word. Use your Strong's as a dictionary. Read a word in the script and say, let me look up this word. Sometimes it'll have the root word, and sometimes it'll have an actual word if it's used enough times, in the scriptures. So now, this is the first. This is the motto, which is your Strong's written in. All right. So this is your numbers, your letters in the Hebrew. So when you look at the word Shana, all right, Shana, this is the 21st letter of the Hebrew alphabet with a numerical value of 300. That's the first letter of the word for year, or two also. Now the next letter is going to be a Nawan. All right. And it's the 14th letter of the Hebrew alphabet with a numerical value of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. All right. So the last letter is going to be a Ha'ah, which is the 5th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So if you look this word up, you'll see two different words, definitions. You'll see two, and then you'll see the word that means year, because as I'm trying to say to you, the year implicitly is the Most High made it so that this word, that the word for year, all right, and then the year itself, all right, from a celestial vantage point, astronomically involves two movements of celestial bodies that can be marked in time. Okay, so now let's go back to Josephus, which Josephus is saying the same thing that the scriptures is saying, but he's not saying such and such verse and such verse. What I'm doing, he says that when the sun is in Aries, which is in the first constellation. That's what we'll call Aries. We'll say Aries is the first constellation. Now, notice he said that the sun. He said that the sun is in the first constellation. Now check this out. We did this last week also. Once the sun is in the first constellation, he said the sun is in Aries, but he said it's on the 14th day. Okay. He said it's on the he said it's gonna be on the 14th day. So now remember, try to review those notes real quick. When he said that it's in the 14th constellation, I'm sorry, when he said that it's in the first constellation, okay, which he called it Aries, okay. What does that mean for the 14th day? What does that mean for the 14th day? Think about that. So this is the first constellation. Okay, now remember, here's the moon, here's the sun, the month. Now remember, it's going to come around again and link up again on the 29th or the 30th. Okay. Find me another marker like this. So now when it comes back around, before it comes back around right here, it's going to be on day number 14. It may be day number 15 some months. Now, if this is the first constellation, this right here is going to be the 7th constellation. So it's right. Let me erase all of this. We're going to come back to all of that. I want to give you the good visual aid. Okay? You're going to break it down astronomical. Now, what I'm doing right here, let me explain your Bibles to the Apocrypha and turn to the book of Wisdom of Solomon. So we're dealing with wisdom, which is the counsel of Yahweh, which exceeds any counsel that we can read. Wisdom of Solomon, let's go to chapter, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. We're not going to go to chapter 13. We're going to go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7. All right. And let's read verse 12. And I rejoiced in them all because wisdom goeth before them. All right, wisdom goeth before them. Verse 16. For in his hands, Yahweh's hand, are both we and our words. Wisdom also and knowledge of workmanship. For he has given me certain knowledge, all right, of the things that are, namely to know how the world was made. Now, we already covered that from Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and we showed through wisdom how when Yahweh says, that he said that in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth, meaning what? All of the elements of creation came into existence. And then anything after that is just Yahweh taking all those different elements and piecing them together. So we've already broken that down. All right. And then he says, and the operation of the elements, verse 18 now, the beginning, ending, and midst of the times, the alteration and turning of the sun and the change of seasons, verse 19, the circuits of years and the position of stars. So the circuits of years means the course of the years, so that there's a cycle, circle, movement, duplication within the years themselves. So circus of years is like saying a circle of twos, because years, remember, means two, and circuit means circle, a cycle, all right, of twos. And that's why we went into, there's things that happen in twos. Okay, you have the ram, okay, which has the two horns. You have the sun and the moon lining up with the two celestial bodies, and the moon goes around again, and then it passes that same constellation and goes into another constellation, which is two trips, two circles. It made the first time, then it makes a circle and goes through the second time, right? So that's the twos. So now, what we wanted to do was talk about these circuits relating to the 14th of Abib, as well as the beginning of the year in the first constellation. Now, notice Josephus and Yahweh puts emphasis on the year and the season, all right, and two, because the word, remember, never forget that the word year means two, all right? The word year means two. It's like a second passing, all right? It comes from the root word shana, which means two. So now we were in the 14th day of the first, which Josephus calls Aries, but which Aries, remember, means a ram, all right? So now here we are in the ram. And we're going to call the ram Abib. Actually, we call it Abib, Nisan, and he said that the sun is in this constellation. All right, so you got the sun. And if the sun is there, then at some point, the moon has a conjunction also with it. So now, this is what we know so far. So now let me show you what's going to happen. Here is the first constellation. And as we go around, we get a half circle, all right, which that half circle is going to translate to a full moon. Full moon. So over here, in the middle of that cycle, like the 14th, 15th day, all right, what are you going to have? You're going to have the constellation of what they call Libra, which means the scales, which represents justice, judgment, represents the sacrifice, the law, and it ultimately goes into the tribe of Levi, which at this time period, it was the tribe of Levi. Now remember, here's the lamb. So the month started with the lamb. Remember, on the 10th day of the month, you had to take your lamb. All right. The 14th of the month, you were supposed to kill it. So here we have the lamb, and then what? And two, letting us go into the, remember the two. Number twos is very significant when it comes to the time period that we're dealing with. So we have two constellations, and we have 2 weeks, two groups of 7. Now that group of 7 is gonna start from the first of the month, no matter what day of the week it is. So we're starting to count by 1 when the month first starts. It could be on the 4th day of the week, the 5th day of the week, or the 6th day of the week, or the 7th day of the week, or the 1st day of the week, or the 2nd day of the week, or the 3rd. It could be any day of the week. But we continue, just like right now, we're in the 2nd day of the week right now, and we're in the 29th day of the month. In this month, we're going to have 30 days, all right? We're going to have 30 days. So when you go into the 5th, so-called 5th of March, that's when we're going to go into an inferior conjunction, when the sun and the moon are going to line up, and it's going to be black. It's going to be a black moon. All right. So now, over here in this other constellation, which is the 14th of Abib / Nisan. What do we have? See, the scales of justice to balance out the sacrifice for our sins, the sacrifice for the Passover. All right. So now you have two things happening to balance out the wickedness that the Egyptians had done to the Israelites and the disobedience of Pharaoh, because their wickedness was heavy. So the Most High said, you know what? I'm going to kill that firstborn and balance everything out. The sins of Israel are heavy. So you know what? I'm going to kill my son, balance everything out. His son is what? Is the sheep. The house of Israel is what? The lost sheep of the house of Israel. See, this isn't mysticism. This isn't some kind of witchcraft. This isn't some kind of magical spell. This is science, astronomy, not astrology, and the Bible all linking up to give you one clear picture of what the Most High says to do and how he wants it done. So now he says that going back to Josephus, which we just read in the Bible also. Don't forget, we're going back to the Bible explaining everything, but Josephus is just saying it in more of like a literary way. All right. He says, the beginning of our year on the 14th day of the lunar month. So he says the 14th day of the lunar month. He said the 14th day of the lunar month, which is right here. All right. When the sun is in Aries. Why say the sun is in Aries? Why didn't he say when the moon is in Aries? Anybody got the answer to that question? I can't see the answers, but you can. Why didn't he say when the moon is in Aries? Why did he say when the sun is in Aries? Anybody got the answer to that? Where's the moon? The moon is here. The moon is here at scales. The sun is still in the first constellation, but the moon has kept moving around. All right, but it's moved around. That means it's come through. It's come through, and now on the 14th day of the month, bam, we find ourselves in the seventh constellation. We find ourselves in the seventh constellation, which is 6 months after the first constellation. All right. Here, 1, you have 5 in between, and then you have the sacrifice, all right, of the Passover. So you have here, you have 5 constellations in between, and then we have a 7th constellation from 1, 5 in between, and then the 7th one, which is the scales, which balance everything out, which was the atonement, which was the ransom that they had to pay for our souls for having us in captivity. And the Most High said, redeem the firstborn of everything that breaks the matrix, meaning that the man's sperm goes into the woman. The first sperm he has that goes into a woman, his woman, and then produces the baby. When it produces that first male that's produced, bam, the Most High said, now this is the one that I want you to dedicate that's special to me. And then you're going to go through a redemption process to take that child back. All right. To take the child, take the child back so he doesn't. That's why now we got the tribe of Levi to serve before the Most High. All right. So this is how we're dealing with time. All right. So now what do we have? These right here, what do they call these? They call them signs. And how do we say sign in Hebrew? Signs in Hebrew is ataf. And this right here is, all right, these are ataf. These are signs. Or these are signs. That's why the Most High said, let them be for signs. And for what? And seasons. The word seasons means feast days. In the Hebrew, that's one of the translations. A feast day or mawa'id, okay? Remember why it says wa'id, which means continually or forever. So mawa'id means a time period that something is happening at a fixed point. Let's break it down, okay? You got the mayam, which means what? Water. And it represents movement. That's the ma. Water and moves out that which is producing action. Ma wa. Wa means something is fixed. Okay, it's fixed. Because wa is a what? Is a peg. So it's fixed. Then the I, meaning that literally means the I or the iyan. That literally means an I. Then the dalat. All right, there's a door, which means again, there's a transition. There's a transition. So mawa'id. All right. So it's a movement, but that movement is something going through a fixed position. And your eye can see and recognize it. And when your eye sees and recognizes it, it's telling you, make that transition. Okay, now is the Passover. Now is the time that you got to transition from a regular, profane day to a holy day. All right, it's movement. Because we're all in what? Where are we at? We're in water. The scriptures calls this water. We're in the waters right now. We're in the waters when you look in Genesis chapter 1. We're in the waters. But the waters that we're in has things that are in a fixed position, which is called the constellations, what they call the zodiac. But the zodiac, as they call it, is not how it's supposed to be used. The zodiac is supposed to be used for time calculating purposes only. So that's why the Most High said for signs and seasons, which all deal with time, planting and harvesting, sign, season, days. Okay, when are the holy days going to be? Right? When are you going to end your day and start a new day based on when the stars start to come in the sky? And in years, the constellation also help to determine and fix your years to know that when they pass through certain constellations, now we're beginning a whole new cycle. Now we're going into the second. We're going into the second cycle of these 12 constellations. All right. Now, the text scriptures that we use were going to be Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 19, Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, and then we can also look at, which we're not going to look at that now, Ecclesiastes chapter 43, verses 1 through 6. All right, Ecclesiastes 43, verses 1 through roughly 1 through 6. All right. But like I said, today, we're just dealing with the aspects of these constellations and the movements through the constellations, dealing with time as it relates to Passover. Now we have a real live model showing us that the word of Yahweh is true. The signs that he fixed in the sky are true. And how they link up to do exactly what he said are true. And then that links up with with what's left by Kahan Yawasap Ban Matatia, which is Kahan Joseph, the son of Matthew, which is the real name of Josephus, the Levite, so-called Haitian, that wrote the antiquities or the ancient ways and the ancient knowledge and the ancient writings of the Yahweh, of the Yahudim or the Yahudim, the antiquities of the Jews written by Josephus. All right. So everything links up together. You cannot take any other aspect of time, the Hebrew time, link it up to the Bible and the history, and come out with anything that's going to flow together this perfectly. This is a perfect system. A perfect system. So now what we want to do, like I said, my camera crew is off, so we're going to see if we have any comments or questions from anyone. Okay. Eliyahu Shua. Okay. Obrigado. The audio is out. I hope y'all can hear now. No audio, Zaquan. No audio, Zaquan. No audio, up. No audio. Oh, still no audio, man. Well, I hope somebody on that, man, still no audio for all of that. I don't know why we didn't get no audio, man. Well, you know what? Let's see. We got audio over here. All right. We got now. If you listen on the YouTube, do we have audio? We have audio on YouTube. So now, I don't know if we have audio over here. They saying no audio on Facebook. What about YouTube? Do you have audio on YouTube? Shalom, shalom. Any audio? Okay, so now YouTube can hear. All right, good. YouTube can hear. So if you on YouTube, maybe you can send me. Let me see if I can get the link for YouTube. It's a webcam link, but that's not the. I don't think that's what we want. All right, let's see. No, that's not really what we want. Okay, so let me see if I can invite somebody on here. I'm gonna invite somebody to appear on the screen with me. I think I can do that. No, I don't think you can do that from this live from your computer. You can do it from your phone, but not from the computer. No audio. Okay. Now I'm on the when I'm on this daggone these other apps and stuff, man. I've been on like 4 or 5 apps all day. How about now? Can y'all hear now? Can you hear now? Anything now? How about now? Any audio now? Any audio now? Okay, but straight up facts can hear good. So what I'm gonna probably do, so this right here, I guess the writing speaks for itself. If you want YouTube, I mean, if you want Facebook, the writing is on the board, speaks for itself. Okay, so we have Mawa'id, Dora in transition, and we have the fixed movement. We have the I, then we have the fixed, then we have the movement. So the movement goes to a fixed place, which is the constellation. Remember, the constellations don't move. This does not move. The Aries and the Ox and the Twins, they don't move. They stay still. So they're fixed. So your eye can see them and notice them. But then you have to make a transition through a door to go through another phase. Okay, you got to go through another phase, and this is phase number 7. And once again, phase number 7, 14th day. What do you got again? Phase number 7, 14 divided by 7 is what? It's 2. So you got that 2 again, and that 2 means what? Shana. Shana. All right. So no audio. Sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. No audio. So right now, I guess that's about it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stop broadcasting on YouTube. I mean on Facebook, and then I'm gonna just replay this video on YouTube. So I'm glad that y'all can hear me over in YouTube, man, because I did not want to waste that whole lesson on not being able to hear what was being said. I don't know what the problem was. I should have just cut off the computer and started everything all over again. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut off. All right, no sound. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Immediate rebroadcast. Please stand by. All right, so I'm gonna send that over in a minute. All right, so everybody that's in YouTube, y'all can hear. There's no problem on YouTube, right? There's no problem. Everything is good on YouTube, right? No problem on YouTube. Everybody can hear me on YouTube. Once again, you got audio now still on YouTube. Yes, you do, or no, you don't. La'ah or Khan. La'ah or Khan. Man, okay, man. I guess that means Khan. Man, is that Ebonics for Khan? Okay. So now I hope that kind of shows you how time operates, and how we can do it and how it links up with the Bible. Right, so I have all of these variables. I'm going to show you the last. We're going to go into the last thing, okay? I'm going to go into the last thing. All right, so now, okay, we're going to call it circle of stars. Circle of stars. Okay? This is from Genesis 1:14. Genesis 1:14. And also it's from Wisdom of Solomon 13, verses 1 through 2. 1 through 2. All right? That's the circle of stars. Now, inside of here, this is the first layer. All right? That's the first layer. Now, the second layer, okay, is the sun. Okay? Which is going to be Genesis 1:16. Wait. That's the second layer. Now the third layer. The third layer is the moon, which we also find from Genesis 1:16, and also we find it in Ecclesiasticus, also called Sirach. Chapter 43, verse 1 on down. Is it Sirach or is that how you spell it? Ciroc? No, it's not spelled like that. Spelled like this, Sirach. Okay? Sirach. You get 1 to 6. You keep reading some more scriptures. All right. So that's what we have for today. Now, is there anybody on YouTube that has any questions before we shut it down over here? Okay. Anybody on YouTube got any questions before we shut it down? Yes. Khan, La'ah, no. Okay, I'll take it as a no. So Yahweh be with you, and name Yahweh Shai Hamashiach. All right, Shalom. Now remember, the next new moon is going to be, the next month starts in 2 days. All right. And right now we're in the 29th day of the third month. All right. On the second day of the week because it's dark now. The new year is going to be in 32 days. The new year is going to be in 32 more nights. 32 more nights, we're going to be in a new year. In 2 more nights, we're going to be in a new month. And right now we're in the second day of the 12th month. And this year we're going to have 13 months. All right? Shalom Lakam. May Yahweh be with you. Name Yahweh Shai. Shema Yasharala. Yahweh Alahaina. Yahweh Chad. Yabarakakam Yahweh Bashem Hamashiach. Yahweh Shai. Thank you for participating and joining us in It's About Time. All right. Shalom.